Hello, world literature. This is Mr. Taylor. I'm going to share with you some of your choices for your manga book that the reading that you'll choose from. So I have a set of about 40 different manga books you can pick from, and I will show you how you can search some of those. I'm also going to give you a highlight of about 15 of the different books just to introduce those to you. So you're aware of some of the choices you have and some of the ones that are more popular. Just a reminder with the manga books, if this is especially if this is your first time reading one of these or seeing one of these books or trying one out, they do read differently than a traditional style book. I believe Mr. Herzog will have some materials to sort of show you how to read the page, but you'll be reading it almost backwards from what you would do with a traditional book or even a comic book. They just read in a different way. I'm going to begin with one that is a pretty popular one that we've had a lot of people take out. That's called Assassination Classroom. So, Assassination Classroom is a book that has kind of a fun premise. The students in this one are assigned to kill their teacher. Basically, they're part of this class where their teacher is this kind of monster tentacle thing, and they are there to learn how to sort of fight these aliens, and they have to try to kill him, and it's about each of the students in the class as they attempt to carry this mission out. If they win, whoever actually figures out a way to stop their teacher and kill him, they get $100 million. There's this prize that's kind of on the line, and so they're all competing for that while they're also learning from the teacher. So it's kind of again a strange premise, but kind of fun and one of the more popular mangas we've had of the last few years. It's been pretty popular. The next one here is Bleach. Bleach has been around for a while. There's actually quite a few books in this set. And in a few of these I'll talk about have maybe 70 books in the series. So Bleach is this idea. We have a character Ichigo who can see ghosts, and this kind of is he begins the book this way. This is something since he was little he's been able to do, but he encounters something called a Soul Reaper, which um, is these kind of fighters who are able to fight these things called hollows. And so he gets pulled into the middle of this battle between a Soul Reaper and a hollow, and it's a violent battle. These Soul Reapers are really trying to protect humanity from these kind of like giant like ghost like monsters. Um, what ends up happening is essentially a power transfer, and we have this human who now has the powers of a Soul Reaper, and the Soul Reaper who's trying to save him has now lost all of her powers, and so she is trying to sort of train him to fight these hollows and to protect people. So that's called Bleach. And again, that one is a pretty popular one. It's been around for a little while. Death Note is the next book. This one's notable partly because there was a film, and I'd say if you haven't heard of any manga, this might be the one that you've heard of. Death Note has a really interesting, kind of very dark premise. Essentially, you have this main character whose name is Light, and he finds a book that's dropped by like the god of death, and the book is extremely powerful, and Light begins to work it out, to experiment with it, to try to figure out what he can do, and he has to have the full correct name of someone, and if he writes this, he has to have seen them. He has to do this as he sees them, I think, and he has to write their full name and then how they will die, and then it will happen. And essentially, he has this kind of ability now to sort of pick who lives and who dies, and he begins to use his power for good. But what happens over the course of the series is you see this corruption of a character with ultimate power. So first one is called Death Note. Interesting, as they said, and of course, the god of death shows up to get his book back, and there's some interesting things going on there. There's also a detective. There's a little bit of a mystery part to this. There's a detective trying to find out who is kind of causing these murders. So he's trying to put out all the pieces into place, even though it's all supernatural. So uh, that one is called again. That was called Death Note. The next one is called Blue Exorcist. Blue Exorcist is neat because you have a character who's raised as he's an exorcist. He fights these demons. His father is not his actual father, though. He was raised to kind of, his stepfather. They're close, but they actually end up getting into sort of as the book begins, kind of a big fight, kind of a blowout fight. And what he finds out about himself is that not only is his stepfather not his father, but he is actually the son of the devil, and he has this whole thing, all these exorcisms they've done, these demons they've tried to eradicate. He has this in his blood, and it's him sort of weighing that with his desire to still put an end to these demons, and it goes from there. And again, as I'm describing these, you're going to start to hear and pick up on certain themes, reoccurring motifs, things like this kind of pull between two worlds, pull between the demon world and the real world, or human world. Those kinds of things are some of the same elements that you'll be able to compare to what you've studied in class. And it's one of the reasons that manga is extremely powerful in as sort of a cultural expression in Japan, and it does capture a lot of those ideas. So hopefully we'll be able to notice some of those. I'm going to switch to a different kind of book with the next one. It's called Nana, and Nana is the story of two girls, both kind of like 20 somethings, and they both end up in the same city at the same time. One is kind of a punk rocker, the other is going to the city to sort of experience life. And it's about they end up meeting each other. They're completely different personalities. They end up becoming best friends. It's about what happens to them in the city. So more realistic, not so much supernatural elements in this one. And the story of these two women as they kind of find themselves in the city. The next one, we go back to some abilities with this one. This one's called One Punch Man, also a very popular one. With this, we have a character that is super powerful, kind of like Superman plus some. He is able to kill anyone with one punch. These monsters, these threats to his city, all of these things he can just eradicate. And essentially, he has grown extremely bored. He has this kind of ennui, this sort of just like, what am I gonna do? Everything. Oh, great! I have to go fight another monster, and he's just tired of it. And it's about how he deals with that, and how he sort of what happens to him. So it's about like this again, kind of a super powerful hero who's almost sort of lost interest in being a hero anymore. Um, and again, that's One Punch. The next one here is Wedding Peach. Um, Wedding Peach is kind of a love story, sort of. It's got this wedding motif throughout it, but you have these women who are sort of in touched by Aphrodite, and it's interesting. You see this like Aphrodite, you see this sort of like a Greek influence almost in the story, but they're touched by Aphrodite to sort of protect love, and then there are these demons who are trying to, stop love, and they have to try to fight it. So a little bit of a kind of again a premise that works on that idea of the love versus hate, evil versus good kind of concept. The next book here is One Piece, also a pretty popular series, and has there's a ton of books in this series. One Piece is about Luffy, and Luffy has dreamed his entire life of being a pirate, and is all he really wanted to do. He wants to find the One Piece so that he can put it together and basically become the king of the pirates. He sets out to do this, but he ends up eating this fruit, and I think it's called the Devil's Fruit. And when the Gum Gum Fruit, and when he eats this, he becomes like super rubbery, almost like a stretchy. He gets this kind of ability, but he can no longer swim, and he'll never be able to. And what happens is he still wants to be a pirate. So even though he can't swim, he sets out on this adventure to get to find all of these treasures and become the king of the pirates. And it's about what happens to him when he does that. Korokos Basketball. So basketball is kind of a popular sport to put into mangas, and in this one we have Korokok was a member of this kind of mysterious team, and he's sort of this team that really dominated, and they call them the Miracle Generation, is the name of the team. But they were they beat everybody. They were dominant. He was the sixth man on this team, and nobody really knows sort of who or what he is. He's kind of hiding his identity. He ends up at a new school on a new team, and they find out who he is. And kind of the leader of that team is like, you have to coach us. You have to lead us to be his old team, that Miracle Generation, and so he is basically with in a whole new set of teammates, and he's trying to sort of overtake these other this other team that he used to be part of, and that's called Korokos Basketball. This one is a 1 and 2 set. So you've got volumes 1 and volumes 2 together. For your purposes of your project, you only need to read one volume, but you could, of course, always read the other. The next book that I have here is called Black Butler. Black Butler is a story about a young boy who is taken almost like he's kidnapped by an occult, and he's supposed to be sacrificed, and they take him to this so that like creepy ritual. These things happen. You think, oh man, this seems crazy. But instead of being sacrificed, he ends up gaining control and power over this demon. And this demon, who he ends up naming Sebastian after a pet of his, him and his demon end up leaving, escaping from this occult, and he goes back to sort of the sophisticated world, and he ends up um, trying to protect the queen. And so he's in this um, sort of aristocrat life, but he has this demon servant, and that's the Black Butler, and it's about what happens to them. Um, so Ranma Half is again almost kind of a silly kind of fun premise, and it's about a father and a daughter who both train in martial arts, and they fall into this kind of cursed spring. And what happens is you turn into whatever has kind of last been in this spring. And so when Ranma is splashed with the water, he changes into a girl. And when his father changes, he changes into a panda bear. And it is, again, about what happens to them. But suddenly you have these kind of silly, almost kind of like crazy situations where, water will change them both into these, one will change into a girl, the other will change into a bear, and it's just about kind of following that premise of gender roles, but also the bear element that's in there too. So the next one here is called Fruits Basket. um, this one's a little bit more serious. It's a girl who's lost her mother and home, and she ends up staying with this particular family. Um, and she finds out that they have some particular powers. They can kind of turn into animals of the zodiac when they're really stressed out. She vows to keep their secret, and stays on in the household. And so you have this main character who is living with this in this kind of house that is crazy, with these changing animals and things that can happen. So that's Fruits Basket. Just a few more here. I'll tell you about. This one is called Silent Voice. I like this one. There's no magic necessarily in this one or kind of fantasy in this one. You have a character who is a bully, a complete jerk. He starts the book off, and this deaf girl comes to his school, and he's terrible to her. And it shows it from his perspective, and then we flash forward 6 years. In those 6 years, his life has fallen apart, and maybe in some ways he's gotten what he deserved, but he also has sort of learned to hate himself. And he sees this girl again, and he makes it his choice, his mission to try to amend for what he's done. And it's about what happens. So kind of almost a moralistic tale in a way, but that's a silent voice. And the next one I have is called Tokyo Ghoul. Tokyo Ghoul's been really popular. It's a little bloody. It uses kind of like these ghouls are a bit like zombies except smart. They're not they are like flesh eating and they're menacing and the book's kind of gory. But you have a main character who's kind of shy. This guy he keeps to himself, but he gets a date, goes out on this date. It turns out that it's a ghoul. He's nearly eaten alive. There's a terrible accident. And what ends up happening as a result of the accident is he is half ghoul, half human. And he has this craving for human flesh. And it's about, again, that premise of sort of being in two worlds at once. What he has to do is learn about the ghoul world. And he finds himself sort of in this culture of these monsters. So that's called Tokyo Ghoul. And that one's again available as a choice. So those are a few of your options. I think I went over about at least a dozen, maybe a few more. And the page, there's a link right below this video that will take you to the World Lit Manga Choices page. It'll be in Koha, and that'll give you all 42 choices. And what's nice about that page is you can look down through and click on the book. You can see the front of it, but you can also then click on the book and read the description. I'm going to switch views here for a moment and have you go to that screen. So if you were to click on the link below, you'd be taken to a screen that looks just like what I have up here. And in order to place a hold, the first thing you'll need to actually do is log into your account. To log into your account, you're going to use your student ID number, whatever that is, and then your Google password. You don't need to put at penmanor.net up here. I've had some people who will do that and they can't get logged in. So just make sure, just use your ID number by itself, and then again, your Google password. I'll log into my account. If you don't do that, you can't put anything on hold, and that is that's going to be part of the problem. You'll see here in a minute, because you'll need to be able to do that to order the book. So some of the books that I just spoke about are available on here. There's kind of two things you want to look for. One, find a book that sounds somewhat interesting to you. So here's Assassination Classroom. Perhaps you want to read that one. But the second thing here is to make sure that you're logged in. There I am. Place a hold. I can do that right now. And also that there's a copy available at the high school. You don't want to reserve or take copies that are available at the middle school. If someone's already taken all of our copies of the book, then you'll have to choose a different one. We have 40 different ones, so you have some options here. If you go up to place that hold, you just click the place hold button and then confirm hold, and we will pull it for you and get it to you. Now, again, if you place something on hold that's already out, you won't end up getting it in time for this project. So we'll send you an email and say, hey, look, that book's already gone. You need to pick another one. But please be aware that that can be an obstacle. And we have these books kind of set aside just for your class while you make your choices. If you do end up liking any of these books, or there's something you're really interested in, or a series you want, we do have, of course, more volumes of manga books, and we even have, I'll scroll here to show you, but we have a high school, under the high school graphic novels. So this is graphic novels, manga, and anime. We have kind of everything, all those kind of visual. There's a whole bunch of options that are in here. But as I said, and these will be all kinds of different things, including the mangas. But the list that you have a link to, the one that's on this YouTube video right below it, that's the one that will be good. Those are all book number ones. They're introductions to series, and they'll allow you to get started, or to at least try a manga book for the first time if you haven't read one before. If you have any questions about getting a particular book, if there's something that you would like, please just let me know. Thanks, and have a great day.